Paris is a feast of monumental sights, delectable foods, and some of the world's finest art. Since the Middle Ages, philosophers, scholars, and artists have flocked to Paris. With them came new ideas and a spirit of inquiry and change. Paris has always been in the avant-garde, at the cutting edge. Parisians are born with style. Everything they do, from displaying pastries to designing department stores, they do it with flair. Paris is art. It's cafes, food, fashion, wine, and above all, its people. And the way I love to experience the art of Paris is on the streets. The heart of the city can be easily explored on foot, and there's no better way to get to know the different moods and moments of Paris. The city is split in half by the Seine. The right bank is the upscale side of town. The Louvre, Tuileries, the Champs-Élysées are on this side. The left bank is known for its bohemian student atmosphere. The Sorbonne is here, as well as the museum known for its impressionist collection, the Musée d'Orsay, and the Eiffel Tower. This is the Café de Flore on the Boulevard Saint-Germain, left bank. You know, writers and artists and even the architects of the French Revolution hatched a lot of their ideas in cafes. The writer Jean-Paul Sartre wrote one of his existential masterpieces right here, and in fact, I'm working on something pretty serious myself. Well, just as soon as I finish my pastry. Cafes are the heartbeat of Paris. In some ways, they're an extension of the living room for Parisians who live in pretty cramped apartments. This tendency to be out in the world, interacting and exchanging ideas, is another reason Parisians are always setting new trends. It started early, this desire to reach for the sky. Notre Dame de Paris was begun in 1100, springing out of a new popular idea, the celebration of the Virgin Mother. Prior to the 11th century, the Virgin played a relatively minor role in Christian religion. Then after the Crusades and contact with the East, something changed. The focus shifted from low, heavy structures to light, soaring structures dedicated to the Virgin. Gothic cathedrals like Notre Dame sprang up all over France. Suddenly, stone seemed weightless. And stunning stained glass filled the churches with light. For the common people who spent most of their lives in small, dark dwellings, the airy cathedrals were marvels. Climbing to the top of Notre Dame, some 300 steps, is an excellent way to work off those pastries. Here you can cozy up to the gargoyles and take in all of Paris. The original medieval gargoyles gradually wore away and from time to time toppled over the side, landing with a crash on the pavement below. In the 19th century, new gargoyles took their place as the guardians of Notre Dame. Just cross the Petit Pont near Notre Dame and you're in the Latin Quarter, named for the language of scholars that was spoken here. The University of Paris, the Sorbonne, drew scholars from all over the world. In the 13th century, the streets of the Latin Quarter were open-air classrooms. Seated on straw, the students took in lectures from instructors like the Italian poet Dante. At the Faculty of Medicine, great medical minds studied, experimented, and searched for cures for common ailments. To combat baldness, these fine doctors came up with a new remedy. Boil 300 slugs, skim off the grease, add 3 tablespoons of oil and 1 of honey, and then rub vigorously on your scalp. Hey, I'll try anything. The learning and experimenting in the Latin Quarter continues. Students still fill the streets, and the area today is a lively mixture of bookstores, cinemas, and fast food joints. If there's still any doubt about the Latin Quarter's claim to learning and erudition, you just have to wander along the Seine in this area. The stands aren't selling hot dogs and beer, but books, books, and more books. One Latin Quarter church, Saint-Séverin, is worth a stop for the stained glass, both its radiant 15th century windows and its 1968 abstract art windows. Wander behind the altar into the palm tree grove named for the twisted columns. Saint-Séverin represents Gothic architecture in its later stages. When it's time to move on, look for the stylish red signs. While you can cover most of Paris by foot, the quickest way to get where you want to go is to take the metro. It's a marvel of efficiency. It's really quite easy. Study the map, pick your route. I'm headed to the Pompidou Center at the station Rambuteau. The end of the line is called Marie de Lila. So I follow the signs for that direction. Bonjour, monsieur. May I have a carnet, please? It's good to have spare tickets in case the ticket booth is closed. I always buy a carnet, a packet of 10.
Merci, monsieur.
Feed the ticket through the turnstile machine. It'll pop up further along. Then keep the ticket in a safe place. An inspector may ask to see it on the train and will fine you if you can't produce it. To change lines, follow the signs that say correspondence. To leave, look for sortie or exit. When the Pompidou Center opened in 1977, Parisians expressed outrage. They complained that this building showed a lack of respect for the historic character of the city. The Pompidou is a building turned inside out. Architects Richard Rogers and Renzo Piano ran the electrical, water, and ventilation systems outside the structure. The pipes and tubes are color-coded by function. For example, blue moves air, green water, and red moves people. The Pompidou Center and its modern art museum draw more visitors than the Louvre or the Eiffel Tower. Next to the Pompidou Center is the playful Stravinsky Fountain, a 1983 installation inspired by the music of composer Igor Stravinsky. Each new addition to the streets of Paris generates controversy. But that never seems to stop the drive to innovate. Parisians even ridiculed the Eiffel Tower. Built for the World's Fair of 1889 by Gustave Eiffel, a designer of railway bridges, the tower was condemned as a useless monstrosity. In time, of course, it became the very symbol of Paris. Another enduring symbol of Paris is the baguette. The French baguette is the tastiest sandwich starter in the world.
Bonjour, madame. Avez-vous une baguette, s'il vous plaît?
My favorite lunches in Paris are the ones that I build shopping the way Parisians do, from shop to shop. At the boulangerie, fresh bread and croissants are made throughout the day, not to mention quiches and tarts. I'm shopping on the Rue Claire, not far from the Eiffel Tower. Here, the shops flow out onto the street, and every day is market day. A charcuterie sells prepared meats.
Madame, je voudrais jambon de Parma.
De pain, oui.
Oui.
The selection in your average Parisian charcuterie is staggering. Dozens of hams, sausages, and pâtés.
Vous voulez mettre le
Merci,
fromage
madame.
dedans?
Oui, merci.
Voilà.
What's a baguette and jambon without fromage?
Bon, merci.
France is the cheese capital of the world. From the Alps to Normandy, hundreds of fresh cheeses are produced for sale in Parisian markets. Many fromageries not only sell cheese, but specialize in aging it in cellars below their shops. Finally, my weakness, a patisserie.
Une tarte aux fraises, s'il vous plaît. Ah, a strawberry tart.
In Paris, pastries are displayed like dazzling jewels. With food, as in art, in clothes, in life, the Parisians do it in style.
Voilà, on s'approche. Comme ça. Voilà. Bye bye.
Voilà. Merci. Bye-bye. Thank you so much.
Parisian streets host hundreds of markets. Try to catch one of the 62 roving farmers markets that spring up 2 or 3 times a week in certain neighborhoods. But markets aren't limited to food. Even if you're not shopping for a bouquet, the flower market at Ile de la Cité is worth checking out. The colors and fragrances are divine. On Sundays, several antique and flea markets magically appear in central Paris. My journalist friend John and I stumbled on this one near the Luxembourg Gardens.
This is amazing. Have this in a huge dining room. It's about $1,600?
It's a little big for the overhead camera.
Many neighborhoods also throw street fairs. This one celebrates food from the Basque region of France. Parisian parks are an oasis of green space in a dense city. 2 of central Paris's largest parks started out as royal gardens. In the early 17th century, Marie de Medici, the widow of Henry IV, had the Luxembourg Palace and Gardens built to remind her of the Pitti Palace in her native city of Florence. She was clearly following a trend. Some 50 years earlier, the Tuileries were built to satisfy another Medici. Catherine de' Medici, the Queen, longed for an Italian-style park. With the Louvre as a backdrop, the Tuileries still have a regal air about them. The Louvre is one of the world's great museums, and everyone knows it. To avoid seeing the Mona Lisa over the heads of a small army, take advantage of evening hours and avoid weekends.
A museum pass, please?
You can buy a 1, 3, or 5-day museum pass at major metro stops or museums. Not only will you save money, with the pass, you can go to the head of the line. This trip, I'm headed for Paris's other preeminent museum, the Musée d'Orsay. Converted from a train station to museum in the early 1980s, the Musée d'Orsay houses art from the 1840s to the First World War. I'm drawn immediately to its famous Impressionist collection. At the first Impressionist exhibit in 1874, critics and public alike jeered at the paintings, calling them childish, amateur sketches. Less finished than the crudest wallpaper, one critic wrote. What the Impressionists displayed was shocking because it was entirely new. This group of renegade artists rejected the classical realism of paintings of the time. Instead, they presented the world as they perceived it in a moment, infused with all the emotions and sensations they felt in that instant. In this painting, Renoir captures a snapshot of a scene as his eye scans a busy dance hall. He used color to express his great joy for life. Monet often painted the same subjects to explore how they changed from moment to moment. The Orsay also includes works by the ever-popular Vincent van Gogh. His emotions not only infused his art, but dramatically colored his scenes. To avoid crowds, visit the museum on Sunday mornings or when it's open late on Thursday evenings. Many of the Impressionists, and later the Cubists, gathered in Montmartre, a still rural area of Paris in the 19th century. Montmartre is on the right bank, set high above the rest of the city on a steep hill. Dominating Montmartre is the church Sacré-Cœur. Like many Parisian landmarks, it caused controversy when it was completed in 1914. Montmartre is often loaded with tourists, but the area is still worth a visit for the quaint back streets. Here you can find traces of the rural Montmartre the Impressionists knew. Montmartre's central square is the lively Place de Tertre. Here street artists earn a living as they entertain passers-by. Art is everywhere in Paris. And one lovely setting is the garden at the Rodin Museum. While the museum is wonderful, the sculpture garden behind the museum is the highlight of a visit here. Sculptor Auguste Rodin was a contemporary of the Impressionists, and he too was misunderstood by many critics. Rodin masterfully captures the drama of the moment, from his portrait of the French writer Balzac, arrested in determined concentration, to a painter frozen in a moment of artistic revelation. In The Burghers of Calais, he depicts the way 6 men react when they're forced to abandon their town to an invading army. Most famous of all is Le Penseur, the thinker, a man heavy with thoughts. Oh, I was just thinking about fashion and style and how the Parisians managed to pull it off. Cool, hip, chic, trendy, Parisians have a certain je ne sais quoi. If you want to be Parisian chic, near the Place Vendôme and the famous Ritz Hotel is the Rue de Faubourg Saint-Honoré and top designer houses. Or if you really want to fit in, find yourself a dog. Dogs turn up in the most surprising places in Paris. Everyone seems to have a canine accessory, so watch your step on the streets. For an eyeful of Parisian fashion, visit a department store. They're awesome. This is Galerie Lafayette, and I'm here on a mission. I need to pick up a little French fragrance for someone special.
Bonjour.
Bonjour, madame. Parlez-vous anglais?
Yes, I do.
I'm looking for something very sort of light, a fragrance for a dear friend of mine, a woman. Sort of light, fresh.
I think I have what you want.
Oh, good.
I hope so. It's calling Eau Dynamisante. It's a very fresh fragrance. Maybe you want to smell it?
I would like that, yes.
Okay, let's go.
Oh, that's very nice.
Yeah, it is.
A bit of lemon.
You have some lemon, right?
If you live outside the European community, you can get a refund of the hefty value-added tax on many purchases. But not all stores are set up to provide VAT forms and receipts. Ask before you buy. When you leave the EC, find the customs office at the airport and submit the VAT forms and receipts. A check will follow. Paris is a big city, but every section is like a village. I try to get to know the neighborhood I'm staying in. I become a regular at the local cafe, visit the shops, and try to get a feel for the place. I'm staying at the Marais, an up-and-coming neighborhood on the right bank of the Seine. I take my coffee every morning at the Brasserie l'Escorial. I love getting to know the faces of the people from my neighborhood. My favorite regular is Jacques. He's a Weimaraner who snacks on Madeleine cakes. The Marais has had its ups and downs. When it was up, it was really up. The Place de Vosges, a royal residence, perked up this neighborhood in 1612. The Place housed princesses and duchesses, writers like Victor Hugo and Molière. In the 17th century, hot-blooded nobles engaged in midnight duels at the Place. The architecture of the Marais is proof of the wealth of this neighborhood in its heyday. You can still find massive wooden doors and elegant reliefs. In the 17th century, grand hotels rose up all over the Marais to house nobles visiting royalty at Place de Vosges. Today, many of the buildings are museums or government offices. Take a peek behind the street front doors to the magnificent courtyards. The Marais district is also the home of the Jewish quarter. If you're in search of a Jewish deli, the Marais has the best in the city. It's also important to support your local wine bar, and I can really get behind that. So I'm going to stop in here and see about having a nice glass of Burgundy or Bordeaux. Unlike cafes, wine bars offer little-known small production wines by the glass.
The young one? What year? 98? 97.
97.
It's a chance to taste and discover new favorites.
This one is 98. Which one do you prefer?
I think I like the Bordeaux. Generally, I like Burgundy better, but I like the Grave.
Okay.
Le coup de fou literally means
Thank you.
crazy elbow, in honor of the tradition of bending the elbow and tipping back a great wine.
Santé.
Santé.
Most wine bars also offer snacks or light meals. When it's time for a meal in Paris, well, you've come to the right town. There are 3 times as many chefs in Paris as lawyers. Now that's my kind of city. The art of waiting tables is even celebrated in a race, the Garçon race, where hundreds of Parisian waiters race across town, trying not to spill the drinks on their trays. One excellent meal in Paris is a must. And in honor of the Latin Quarter and all that learning, I'm dining at Les Bouquinistes, near the bookstalls along the Seine. Les Bouquinistes is a small, trendy restaurant with light, flavorful fare. Chef William Ledoux is partnered with one of the most famous Parisian chefs, Guy Savoy. Many of Paris's elite chefs have opened smaller, less expensive restaurants like this one. It's a great way to taste fine French cuisine in a less formal setting. Here's a tip. Before leaving home, check a good guidebook for places to eat. Armed with an email address or fax number, it's usually easy to make a reservation well in advance. If by day Paris is art, well, by night the city is a masterpiece. For me, it's impossible to say au revoir to Paris. You go on ahead. I'm going to stay and write my masterpiece, maybe even start a whole new literary movement. They'll call it Maxism. And sure, at first people will laugh, but eventually they'll change their tune. But first, I'm going to finish my pastry. From Paris, I'm Rudy Maxa. A bientôt.